What's up guys, Joe with Treasure Farms. I'm a habitat specialist with Whitetail Habitat Solutions alongside Jeff Sturgis and the gang. Hope everyone is doing well. We are back here continuing some of our winter activities and our timber stand improvement. I know I told you that I would try and get to one of my pockets and give you a little bit more of a show and tell and some info. You can see here behind me all of this young growth. About 2 years ago, I want to say we did this. And this is how it looks in the winter. It's nice and thick, a mix of flush cutting and hinge cutting. Look at the gap we have in the sky. This one is slightly bigger just because we have a ditch over here and we have field edge over there. So it wasn't enough really to do two good ones. So I decided to just do one larger one. Also, when we talk about location, I like to look for tiny hills, especially in flatland area of Michigan over here. If I can find a little area that's raised up so that the deer can have a nice vantage point, it's really going to help with bedding as well. And so what I did was I dropped all of my larger trees first, of course, flush cutting, especially any poplar, all those that might get in the way, but will have good regeneration. I left some of the oak, like you can see that small one there. And then these others that I hinged, this is like a shagbark hickory you can see here. I'm gonna put my spray can down here. We're doing some marking. Look at the all the growth off of it, guys. And this is exactly why you cut at waist height. Exactly why. So this stays dropping, and look at all this deer browse. And look at the actual, I mean, they're actually eating it. It's not just because we like to say things. I mean, it's very tried and true. It's working. You can see the browse. It's kind of littered in rubs. I haven't walked through this whole section yet, but it's littered with rubs. They're obviously browsing it. They're traveling through here. I could definitely spend a little bit of time possibly in the, well, whenever really, but kind of cutting some of this back just because it's hard to walk through the thorns, even to show you guys this stuff. But as you all know, I'm sure it's much thicker in the winter. The reason we have these spray cans is because instead of taping, it is frigid cold out, but we decided to try and spray and see if it will stick and dry enough in this cold weather so that when we have our mulcher out, he can kind of follow what we're spraying and take things down that way. Give me a sec.
I would say this was a good area.
I agree. Outside of the pockets, the wintertime's an awesome time of year to come through and look at what you planted last spring just to see what might have made it. You know, if you were worried about weeds or things being, shaded out. These Norway spruce right here, I mean, that one's almost as tall as me. I planted, this is one of my first ever planting videos, probably 4, maybe 5 years ago. I will try and put it up on the screen below. I know I was wearing my cowboy hat. And these look good and all the growth buds on them. And then Mike and I, what do you think, 2 or 3 years ago? 2 years? 3 years? Planted all of these young ones that are also still growing well. And this field, they're kind of littered back there. This field gets pretty tall with just annual weeds and things like that. So pleasantly surprised to see all this, and the deer treks through it. But our bedding area is just off of this, and then they'll have some windbreaks with the pines, and it's really a nice kind of edge feathering from mature timber to kind of the briars and all that, woody shrub tips down here to the grasses, and then what will be, conifers and the like. So wanted to show you guys that. Makes you feel good. You can also see, just like I do for many client properties, when we have these edges, and I'm constantly working on my own timber stand improvement, of course, but you can see back there in the dead of winter, without more timber stand improvement, you can see quite a ways. And it's exactly one of the reasons why we line a lot of the field edges also with switchgrass. Even though there's not a food plot here, this is pure bedding, pure area for a deer to have all the time. But doing the same thing as I see some of my marking flags from back in the day. And it's working good. It makes this area feel much more secluded for the deer. And, they can't just look in and see what's around. If they're looking for a hot doe, they got to come cruising. As I'm walking out of this little field behind me that we were just in, I like to come look some of your, common spots where deer always frequent and make a lot of sign, and this year is no different. You can see some of these rubs and these. I love when they're 3-4 feet high, and it just like, you know, some nice bucks tore these up. There's more back there every year. This area is just kind of littered with some nice stuff. It's a little funnel. And actually, funny enough, out here near that redneck, I got a picture of my buck just before I shot him when he went through the woods, and ultimately got him in my stand. But it's okay to have some of these areas, guys, where you might have good sign, but we're still not blowing it out. I'm not sitting right here. I don't have a stand location. That redneck's the closest thing, and it's towards the edge of my property. We can't afford to blow these out and be hunting them just because you see sign, but we can use it to our advantage and start to line the deer up with the areas we want them to go. But those big ones aren't going to stick around if you guys are continually pushing them out. So it's just kind of a reminder to really hunt from the outside in, one of Jeff's main strategies. This right here next to me is some of the natural regeneration that we had. It was kind of funny, if you guys have ever heard Jeff talk about one of his clients spraying like 7 times too much simazine, that was me a while back. And it was kind of funny because right on the other side of these poplars, you can see some switch growing right here, right in front of me. And I had planted a line. And by the time Jeff got here, when we had started talking, we realized that with my backpack sprayer, my ratios were just way off. And something with the residual, like simazine being a pre-emergent, you don't want too much because if you do that, it sits longer and longer in the soil and prevents stuff from growing. So it took a lot longer for this stuff to come up. I wish I had a lot more of it in other areas. It might just be too sandy, but an area like this, I mean, it's great. There are literally, it is littered with rubs, and they might be small. They're all small trees, but there's probably 50 in here. They move through it a lot. I had a bed back there, and you can see the trails coming through, poop everywhere. And so they love it. And the hope is to kind of continue, you know, naturally with some of these areas, and it does the same thing because they really like it. Out here, you can see some of my hard mass trees, which we'll talk about this year. And it makes a nice little morning cruising setup. Saw a bunch of bucks running all around here. Actually, a bunch of my targets came through. They were just a little out of range. We might tweak this redneck here a little bit, but got to see at least 2 of them. There were 3 bucks running together, which was very exciting, and all kinds of stuff. So we will make those tweaks and bring them to you guys when it warms up a little bit. This is a trail from the woods that actually goes out to that redneck I was just showing you guys. You can see it can continue on. There's a bed right there, actually. There's a couple more over here. But it's important to keep these clear and check them out. I mean, there's a dead tree that fell across the path, which they're getting over it pretty easy. It's just nice in the winter to come through, even though I'm sure there are some thorns and the like, but much easier to come through than later on and clean some of that up with the chainsaw. I bought a much smaller chainsaw for kind of that activity. Easier trees as long as they're not that big, and just come through here and keep these open for the deer. Make sure that you're giving them a nice easy way to your stands. More sign over there. And this comes right to another tree stand over there, if you can see that. And I got a camera right here on the tree, and there's actually a water hole. Sorry, these thorns are killer. There's actually a water hole right in here. Oh, right here. Also, where another tree is down because I dropped that tree. So a little bit of cleanup work to do. But you can kind of see how things come together as far as corridors and stand placement. So we just spent, I don't know, an hour or so taking some tubes off in the winter, which might seem odd, but a lot of mice nests and all this stuff when you have good cover around and different things. Like Mike was saying, the habitat is pretty nice. You have to deal kind of with some of the downsides of that. So maybe we'll put some back on in the spring and so on. I've heard of using mothballs and stuff and Mike's soap to keep the mice away and stuff, but definitely some of the trees are nipped. Not quite clean through, but pretty damaged. Taking a look at our corn last year, especially the stuff I planted and left standing, and of course the edges are pretty bad. I see 1 or 2 ears back there, but for the most part, I mean, it's just decimated. You can barely find any food. I see one back there, a couple ears. but I did a few acres, and it's just crazy to see the damage. Here's one here that all the wildlife, not just the deer, of course, raccoons and things like that, but they did a good number on it. Probably could push some of this down. We're gonna be, replanting it this coming year, but definitely a good value add, and we sometimes incorporate it into client visits as well. So love to see this. If you guys aren't sure, this is what your milkweed looks like. If you buy any of those pouches, I had a full one back there. This one has some in it, but if you buy any of those pouches, you like to see where the wind's blowing. We really like milkweed because instead of the, powder evaporating or what have you, if you're up in your stand, maybe you have thermals to deal with and the like, you can see where this goes as you drop it from your stand. And if you have any kind of weird turns, you see the wind following the terrain and such, we really prefer to use this kind of stuff. But if you have this on your farm, you could start filling up your pouch back with this exact stuff. There's typically a lot more in this. You can see the seeds per still going per pod, but there's a lot in one, and you could definitely save some of these if you can find them on your own farm. Save you a little money too. Yep. You can definitely see this stuff's a little taller back here. There's more ears still on the corn. This is some of our better growing stuff. And just see how tall it is. So a little more than I thought, but they're definitely using it. Guys, we're back at this little island of trees I've come to often in some of my videos throughout the year. Usually showing you some of the hinges and all of the shoots on the hinges that lived. And that one in the back, they're getting out of deer's range depending on the tree you're looking at. So might need to actually grab some of those shoots and tie them back down to the tree, because this would be a really nice area. But what I wanted to show you is this hybrid poplar right here. Pretty nice. This a few years ago I planted. It was a 6-foot cutting, but I mean now it's 11 probably feet, somewhere around there, and it looks great. And I just wanted to show that. There's another one right over there, another one, smaller one right here actually. I only had 5 or 6 left in that year, but what I like to do is put them between these trunks, these trees that I fell, and put them, in the V's of the larger branches, because the deer won't really be readily walking through here. So they're not gonna mess with this tree. Otherwise it would definitely have to be caged. And you can see around the edge is where we actually have the deer trail. And so because they aren't messing with it, I don't have to fence that. It's able to live, and it's a great way, as long as you're getting sunlight, to get those plants to work out. So just cruising along and still checking out some of these different plantings, from pines to the cuttings and the like. We got some more pockets over here. Another cool little area. This is kind of like a point into this field where I did quite a few hinges. You can see more of it over here. A lot of these shoots, again, starting to get above deer height, where I can bring these down, leave them attached, and tie them back. Eventually they will get too thick where I won't really be able to do this without them breaking. So, see them living though. Deer and turkeys, lots of turkeys through here, where they're definitely tearing it up. A lot of these hinges did pretty well, but they like an area like this where they can sit and see looking out, but remain very hidden in here so they can take off long before you ever see them. Pretty neat. I know we all like to come and scout in the snow and see the tracks and everything. More poop. Bear in mind though, guys, when you do this, depending on how fresh the snow is, if it's super fresh and the deer haven't had a ton of time to bed, and deer come and go from different properties and so on, can give you a good idea of where they're bedding. You might not see as much. We found some beds today. I would have liked to see a little more, but the snow and everything hasn't all been there super long too, so you're not going to get a total picture of the year if the snow isn't that old, so bear that in mind. Another nice little area in here that we did quite a few cuts, released some trees, and you can see the tracks and everything that's been coming through. Have some baby cedars, some rubs of them moving through. But we're pretty much gonna wrap things up. It's been a fun day of scouting. Did some marking for the mulcher. Got that done and really had some fun walking around. See some beds over there actually. Not that one, that's just under a log, but go show you this. Same principle as that strip back there, but you know, where they're able to kind of be here in this pretty protected and be able to look out into the field and see if anything is coming. Right there. Oh no, don't rip. These thorns are getting me. Nice, pretty big loner bed or something holed up here. That's a good sign. Probably a buck bed. Even out in this field, looks like some beds hidden in these tall annual weeds. We have some Austrian pines if you guys haven't seen those. Oh, another one right here. Go family group. Relating to some of the food sources we have out here. Oh yeah, look at these guys. Look a little different, you know, almost like a white pine, but these are Austrian pine. Kind of similar, the puffs you'll see with the white pine, but a little bit different. These are some of the first trees I ever planted. Pretty dang cool. One other thing I wanted to mention, guys, is the pockets. If you're nervous about having these out with fencing and the like and just how deer react to them, just know the deer go right around them. Probably even see tracks, not all deer, but even in the stand, seeing these deer kind of go ring around the rosy, almost like they're just playing around them. So I don't want you guys to think, oh, if I put a lot of this human type, you know, fence, it's gonna scare the deer away. It hasn't really made much of a difference that I've been able to see at all. But anyway, that's gonna, oh man, be it for today. Excuse the thorns. I would definitely, should have worn a different jacket. But I hope you guys are having fun. Another old bed right there, actually. And we'll see you next time.